So with this, the trick is that you cut a jagged cut so that it knits back together when you press it, and you cut just the minimum, 2 sides, whatever it is, 2.5 sides, just enough to open it up, get the cast out. So in this case, we're not getting the cast out, we're getting the original, which was the model or the pattern for the... So I'm putting good bit of dishwashing liquid, just ordinary dishwashing liquid with a reasonable amount of water, just a bit of water, and then that actually is the best, I think it's the best lubricant that well, it's certainly a very available lubricant. Might even put some in there. So this job is can be tricky. You have to hold it open as you cut. This is going to be cool. If it works, it'll be great. Last night I ran out of the mix and I got up to about there. So what I did is I got an old, not very successful mould, and I cut chunks of it and put it into the mix, and gradually the level got up to just where it needed to be. So now, normally I cut on this flat side, I mean the narrow side, and let's give it a whirl. Doesn't have to be perfect, as long as you don't. Yeah, you have to. When you come to a hole where the model, the pattern, the original is actually pierced, then you have to stretch and delicately cut through the stretched piece that will that goes into the hole. And so it's amazing. You can do undercuts, you can do even holes with this method, and it's not as scary or hard as it sounds, and in fact may even look a bit scary the way I'm doing it. But as I say, I've got another whole video on this, so I won't be doing the whole thing. It can be fiddly and long-winded, but it seems that way. But the alternative is also long-winded, which and in fact more so, and that's where you pour it in 2 lots, and then you put talcum powder or something in between the pours, and you have to support the original, and you do 1 pour, then you wait for it to set, you make it so it won't stick, and then you do another pour so that you've got your 2 halves. But that is time consuming, and this way, once you get used to it, it's quite addictive really. And I will do a little bit more so that I can show you the exciting interior of the mold, and release the original, which was greenstone carving, which took me over 2 years. And so suddenly it's up to the next stage, which is if I was the carving, I'd be quite alarmed. In fact, I'd think, well, I'm being buried. So the carving being the greenstone Christ, or the green man who turned into a Christ figure, it's quite appropriate. So there we go. We're starting to release him. He's being resurrected. Let's do a bit more. But oh yeah, yep. There we go. We've got a hole. See, that's his elbow there, and there's a hole that goes right through. So I'm stretching it, and then I'm cutting, just delicately cutting, so that ideally the cut is halfway through the hole. So you've got a piece of silicone on one side and a piece on the other. You can do it just mostly on one side, and it just means that the cut piece could be prone to wiggle around, and whereas if you do it halfway, so that it's halfway in the hole, then it's and there's another hole. So there's a hole here, which is where the there's a hole here, which I'm going to cut now, and that goes right through the head, and that's where the hanger is. So I'm once again, as I say, just cutting it so that you've got the two sides, silicone sticking through one side and sticking through the other, which when you pour the metal in, the effect is that you've created a hole. And here we go, doing some more. More. So now he's barely covered there, but never mind. Sometimes you just have to improvise a little bit when you do your casts. Ideally, you just want a very clean, easy mould to cast from, but it's not the end of the world if you have to fiddle around and fiddle around with it a bit. Each cast, each pour, I suppose you'd call it, when it's metal. So far the waste silicone, which I had to put in to increase the volume, doesn't seem to have interfered with our just there we go. I've just got one piece. There's multiple piercings in this. Has quite a few piercings. Yep. So I'll cut a little bit down the bottom here. So it doesn't matter if there's a multiple jaggednesses. The main thing is that you don't actually cut any chunks out. You simply cut a jagged line, and it all fits back together when you're casting. So this is a challenging one. So the idea is not to make any orphans, not to make any pieces that just are cut two sides. You only want to cut one cut. So that you don't have them dropping out. It's quite a complicated cut here, but I think it's castable. Castable. Yeah, so this is pretty hard to pull, so I'll open it out a bit more and you just don't, ideally you don't want to have to cut it into two separate pieces, because then it's easier to marry it all up together. Well, that's my theory anyway. Just got to be careful that I'm not pulling anything that needs to be cut free. Theoretically, this bit here should come. I'm just sort of making sure I'm trying to push it through. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there it goes. It's quite scary the way it's sort of, it's quite rigid. This some, you can get some various rigidities to these mix, the silicone, and it's easier to demold when it's not such rigid material. Okay, here he is. He's nearly coming out. There, the carving is out. Look at the complexity of that mould. Alright, so I have to test that out. Test the mould out. So I dry it thoroughly. I put some graphite powder in it, tie it round and cast. But that'll be another video. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe and like if you've got any value out of this.